Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPAutos.com, your libertarian car guy, and I just wanted to do a quick afterthought video on this last of the line Lexus GS 350s that I've got this week to test drive. In particular, the thing that makes me sad to see it go is that it's one of a very few vehicles in the class that still comes standard with a V6 engine. Listen to it. Hear that? That's a sound you don't get with a turbocharged 4. No matter how they try to adjust it, mask it, or add electronic acoustic enhancement, as some manufacturers have done, you just don't get that nice, crisp, sing-song baritone that you get out of a V6, which really you ought to get when you're paying $50,000 for a luxury sports sedan. It blows my Gen X mind to think we're now at the point where probably 2/3 of the vehicles in this class, and I'm talking to you BMW 5 Series, Mercedes E-Class, a number of others, come standard with 2.0 liter turbo 4s. Used to be 4-cylinder engines were economy car engines. Used to be when you spent the kind of money that you have to spend to get into something like a BMW 5 or a Mercedes E or a Lexus GS, you at least got a V6. And at one time, it was a given that cars that expensive came with a V8. And some of them came with V12s, but if you've been watching the industry for as long as I have, you'll see that things have kind of gone in the opposite direction now, and V8s are very uncommon, and V12s are essentially non-existent. I'm trying to think of any new vehicle that's not something ridiculous like a Bugatti or something in that class, even comes with a 12-cylinder engine anymore. In fact, some of the top-of-the-line six-figure cars now come standard with 6-cylinder engines, which I think is just, it's tragic. I don't care how much horsepower they get out of a 4-cylinder engine with a turbo, or for that matter, a V6 with a turbo in lieu of a V8. It's not the same. There's a certain element of prestige and coolness that attends having a big engine. And ultimately, what's the point of all of this turbocharging of little engines when you look at the stats? The fuel economy difference is negligible. And from the standpoint of somebody who buys one of these things, if you're spending $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 on a car, somehow I think that fuel economy, especially when we're talking about a difference of maybe 3 to 5 miles per gallon, it's probably not a big priority for you. You're probably buying the car for other reasons. Problem is, the government does not want you to buy a car with a V6 or a V8, and they're using regulatory rigmarole to make sure that you can't, by making it very difficult for the manufacturers to offer them any longer. A lot of people outside of the car business do not know what the acronym CAFE, C-A-F-E, stands for. I've never even heard of it. That's the regulatory rigmarole that's spelled out means corporate average fuel economy. And the government since the 70s has been decreeing how many miles per gallon all new cars must average, and they continue to uptick it. And now that we've got President-elect Biden in the hopper, the prospect of that going up to 50 miles per gallon as the mandatory minimum average miles per gallon that all new cars must achieve. And they're characterizing this, by the way, also as, oh, it's an emissions issue, so we got to virtue signal and show how much we care about the earth. At any rate, it's essentially impossible to get a V6 and forget a V8 to get 50 miles per gallon, at least not in a 4,000-pound car. You might conceivably do it in a 1,300-pound car, but of course that's also been regulated out of existence by the government in the name of safety, which is a whole nother rant. So anyway, the manufacturers desperately try to maintain at least the power and the performance that you used to get with a V8 or a V6 engine by turbocharging these smaller engines. Even that expedient, though, isn't working very well, and that's why if you look into the stats, you look at what the power output is of the 2.0 liter turbo 4s in some of the GS's competition, like the BMW 5 and the Mercedes E, you'll see they make about, what, between 248, I think it is, and 255 horsepower. And frankly, That's pathetic. For a $50,000 car, 248 horsepower, there are a lot of economy cars, well, not a lot, but there are economy cars that have close to that much, or 2/3 of that much. Heck, a Camry's 4-cylinder without the turbo makes, I think, 208 horsepower. So the Camry costs about $22,000. It's rude and obnoxious, in my opinion, and it's an imposition because the buyers aren't asking for this. It's the government decreeing it. They're taking everything away from us bit by bit and piecemeal, and they're doing it very cleverly, not by outright illegalizing whatever it is that we want, but simply by regulating it to death, making it essentially impossible for the companies that manufacture the things that we want to offer them to us, by making it catastrophically expensive to comply with the regulations. A parallel example is, in some states, like my state, it's not illegal to own a rifle that can automatic fire, but you have to get permission. You got to get a special license, and I think it's a couple $1,000 every year that you have to pay in order to be able to possess the so-called assault rifle. It's pretty shocking. Anyway, that's the gist of today's rant. There's more up at epautos.com, the web's best libertarian gearhead site. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll catch up with you again soon.